360 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani, and this is the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, and hawaiisportsradio.com. And of course, it is Aloha Monday and St. Paddy's Day. So we are streaming live as we do every Monday on our YouTube channel. So be sure to go like and subscribe. And hello to everyone and all of our regular viewers that always tune into our YouTube. And of course, you can watch the YouTube on demand as it goes up right away on our channel. So mahalo for tuning in. Got a lot of stuff to get into today. Obviously, a lot of basketball as the madness of March is officially here. Unfortunately for the Rainbow Wahine basketball team, falling in the semifinals once again to eventual Big West Conference or Big West Tournament champions UC San Diego. We'll talk about that. We'll hear some of the thoughts from Coach Beeman following that loss. And of course, Paul and I, as we do all the time, speak extensively about that game. Also, just look at the overall WBIT bracket, which the Rainbow Wahine, at least their season, is not done yet. So still will be able to play a little bit more basketball, but they have a tall task this week, Thursday, against UNLV in the opening round of the WBIT. So we'll doing maybe a little quick preview of that. We'll do a more extensive preview a little later in the week as we get through it. But take a look at both the men's and women's brackets for the NCAAs. What are the potential snubs? Well, I feel like, or maybe it's just because my feed is it's just filled with a lot of women's basketball content at this point, which I love. But I feel like a lot of the snubs that I've been seeing go viral have mainly kind of revolved around the women's basketball bracket side more than the men's, like we've seen in a lot of years. But a lot of parity either way on both sides, which is really exciting heading into, again, the madness of March. So we'll talk about that, talk about some men's volleyball in here from head coach Charlie Wade following their loss and kind of a somewhat of a sloppy game that they had against USC, top 5 opponent, but how they bounce back, we will see. And a little bit of baseball. Hey, there we go. We got some wins when it came to baseball.
Positivity.
There is our positive stuff when it comes to baseball. winning the series against nationally ranked opponent and, of course, Big West Conference opponent UC Santa Barbara over the weekend after when you thought like there couldn't be a crazier game following Saturday's game. It's a different kind of crazy that happened yesterday with a really narrow victory for the Rainbow Warriors, but after like a game riddled with a lot of runs and I'm sure very entertaining for the sold-out crowd that was in attendance at the Les Murakami Stadium. So a lot to get into today, but I thought, of course, it was fitting to start the show specifically just talking about the tragic and sudden loss of Cindy Lewis. I'm going to try to get in this without getting too emotional, but I've already warned Paul that he needs to be prepared to take over the microphone from me. We got the shocking news. I was like on the airplane, ready to take off, and and that's how I can describe it, shocking news of the passing of Cindy Lewis, a retired star advertiser, writer, and just an overall trailblazer for women's sports here in Hawaii. Not only just her trailblazer herself, but also just what she, just pushing for coverage overall of women's sports. She's like the OG of that. And I'm probably her most important job, though, and the part that broke my heart the most in hearing this news is that she was a loving mother to Tiff Wells, who was my former colleague, and as you guys know him, the voice of Rainbow Warrior and Rainbow Wahine volleyball. They were so proud of each other. And I say each other because he was always speaking so highly of his mom and looked up to her so much. And she was always like posting about how proud she was of her son. And like, just that's the part that gets me really choked up about Cindy the most, is just how incredible of a mom she was on top of everything else she did. But just that relationship she had with her son in Tiff, because I personally didn't get a chance to work side by side with her too much, just because we didn't always cover the same sports, and obviously working in a different type of media than I have been, compared to some of the other people that we have lost most recently. But she was just an incredible woman. Again, a trailblazer. I want to kind of read. She was inducted into the Circle of Honor, the UH Circle of Honor last year, and share. I just thought it was so fitting for those that maybe haven't seen it or know too much about her, but just the summary of what was said about her. Of all her accomplishments, you kind of got to only fit it into one paragraph, but via the UH Sports Circle of Honor induction in 2024, for over 4 decades, Cindy Lewis covered UH teams for the Honolulu Star Bulletin and Honolulu Star Advertiser. She was the beat writer for both men's and women's volleyball, covering 5 NCAA championship teams, and also the beat writer for men's and women's basketball. She was the first female in the Star Bulletin sports department, and in 1999 was named sports editor, becoming the first woman to head a sports department in the state of Hawaii. She twice was recognized by the American Volleyball Coaches Association as National Print Journalist of the Year and earned a USA Volleyball Media Recognition Award. She also served as assistant sports editor and columnist for the newspapers, and again, last year being inducted into the UH Sports Circle of Honor, along with one of her dear friends, and I know they kind of said also sometimes a competitor as well. But like I mentioned, I think the part that gets me the most choked up, and sharing with you guys on our YouTube channel, just that photo of her and her son Tiff, obviously courtside of a volleyball game as he is the voice, and just being able to see them cover the sport that they loved for so many years. And that's why I get emotional.
It's a lot. I really struggled with this news yesterday for a couple of reasons that you kind of touched on, right? Where, one, this is a titan of the Hawaii sports media industry, and we've continued to lose too many of those recently, especially too early, it feels like. You mentioned how proud she was of her son and how proud of her that her son is. And that's kind of where it hits me the most, as like, I don't know, I like to call myself kind of a mama's boy, and I would argue that those two exemplified exactly what you would want a relationship to be between mother and son. Just continuously positive, always proud, always pushing each other. I can't express enough the love that they showed each other, and it makes you grow a love for them even more. All of my aloha, love, heart, whatever it may be, goes to Tiff, because I can't even fathom losing my mom. And when you share somebody with an entire state, island, whatever it may be, and then it grows to be more than that, this is a loss that impacts the volleyball community, not just here in Hawaii, but at large. This is a loss that really, really sucks. But it's one that gives us another opportunity to, like you say, point out the trailblazer that Cindy was, because, I'm a big baseball guy. I'm a big, I love quotes. And there's the very famous quote of like, heroes get remembered, but legends never die. She is a legend. She is somebody who will live on forever. Forever, forever, forever. You can't tell the story of Hawaii Rainbow Wahine volleyball or Rainbow Warrior volleyball without her. You can't tell the story of sports media coverage here. Mm-hmm. You can't tell the story of women breaking through in the sports media industry here and getting the actual respect that they deserve without Cindy Lewis. And I think that is important to continue to recognize over and over again, because Yeah, I mean, just frankly, without her, there's a good chance that we're probably not on the air today. I know it's a different industry and I know stuff like that, but opening doors is so important. And she was somebody who really kicked the door down in a lot of ways with her coverage.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part, why it just hit me so hard to not only obviously like I just feel for my former colleague and friend Tiff Wells, but just because it was so sudden, right? Like some of the other passings that we've had recently, although it doesn't hit you until it's final, you have some time to emotionally prepare with the loss. And this one just came so sudden that it just sent shockwaves through not only the sports media community, but also some sports fans. I saw my other group texts, they're texting about it this morning, just how shocking it was and how sad. And it just, it happened where she just didn't show up. She was a regular paddler and she didn't show up to her paddling Sundays, and when her friends went to go check on her, and that's what happened. So passed away, it seems like, by all peacefully in her home overnight, is what was reported in the Star Advertiser. And I just want to kind of reiterate, like I said, but I didn't really get a chance to work side by side with her too much, but I do remember a time where I was able to kind of chat with her for a good amount of time. And it was interesting to hear her side of what she did endure as a woman in sports media coverage. And I won't tell too many details of the story for, fear of any kind of backlash on the people involved. But she explained a time, and this is what was happening all across the country to, women trying to break into the sports coverage and sports media landscape of having to. She wanted an interview with a male coach of a male sport, and the only time he was available to do it was just in the steam room, basically. And you know what? She powered through, and she was like, "I need this interview, and I'm going to do it." Right? Like, that's the kind of stuff that not only she had to deal with, but women in sports media and probably in all of media, like even in news and everything. But that's the time that she just powered through and didn't let it stop her, and got the stories that she needed and wanted to get the whole time through. And just such, and that's why she is, I wanted to kind of double down in case people aren't really familiar with how much of a trailblazer she was for not only women's sports, elevating and doing what she could to tell the stories of a lot of the women's sports, especially at the University of Hawai'i, but just her herself and what she did to push forward just sports journalism and having to deal with a lot more than her male counterparts. And it's just a true testament of just the grit that she had. And I just, hats off to her, paving the way for a lot of us. And like Paul said, not necessarily, not even just women, but just a true good journalism, because you see everyone, all of the sports writers and reporters just talk so highly of her, and just how her coverage and her journalism and how talented she was. And again, my heart just breaks for her family, and especially her son and her only child in Tiff Wells. So we are with you, my friend. And yeah, now we're going to use this time to take a break so I can compose myself.
I was going to say, compose ourselves a
little. When we come back, though, we will continue our discussion of women's sports and get into some women's basketball conversation next on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Paul Brecht on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. All right, time to talk all about University of Hawai'i women's basketball. A tough loss suffered. I mean, as you guys know, I made the trip. By the way, yeah, thanks to Paul and Michael for filling in on Friday. How did it go?
I think okay. I don't know. Second hour kind of got derailed a little bit as we watched
the game's going
game.
on. Yeah.
And of course, with the way that the first half of the game, especially when it was, the vibes were not great for hour number 2. Hour number 1 went very smoothly, though. So I hope the beautiful people were able to, stomach a second hour that was a mixture of kind of play-by-play off the television and some conversation about other things. I don't know. Michael was very focused on the television. I was also trying my best to bounce between each. It was chaos. Nonetheless, luckily we have more basketball to talk about.
Yeah, and it was quite the chaotic game. That's where we were in attendance. Unfortunately, all of us that made the trek, the trip was kind of short. It was already everyone. I kind of joked about it last week, where a lot of people had booked earlier, anticipating the men would also be playing, but just had one game overall to watch. But nonetheless, really proud of this Rainbow Wahine basketball team for fighting back again, falling to UC San Diego 51-49 last week Friday, which the Tritons became the eventual champs of the Big West Conference tournament, and the men also being able to beat UC Irvine. So first year eligible with full D1 status. So that's why this is the first time they're even playing in the Big West Conference tournament. And both teams were able to capture it. This is one I just had flashbacks of the regular season. I know I talked about it ad nauseum before, but Hawaii playing at UCSD and Sugapong missing the essential game-winning shot. And I think it was Gallegos who also missed a shot where they could have won in the regular season. And this time, Sugapong, she made that shot. She made the shot to lift UCSD over Hawaii. Again, barely having any time on the clock. And I was kind of questioning a little bit, why they didn't foul or double team. But as you'll hear from Coach Beeman in a little bit, the game plan was to try to foul or to give themselves at least 3 seconds left and give themselves hopefully a better look than what they had with 0.6 seconds left on the clock. But Hawaii outscored by the Tritons 22-4 in that first half. I think we were all just kind of, like you said, the vibes were just what is going on? But to UCSD's credit, they were making the tough shots. They were making it, and we just weren't. I think I was texting in our group chat because I know Michael was saying, it seems like they're having trouble with the length. I was like, UCSD is long, and they are a very good defensive team, but from my courtside position, Hawaii was getting good looks. They were getting good looks. They were getting their usual shots. It just wasn't falling. And then on the other end, UCSD able to convert their shots, which is why you saw that. But fortunately, the game is played in quarters or halves, however you want to look at it. So naturally, with my positive coup self, even going into halftime, Hawaii also able to keep it a little closer in the second quarter, only outscored 19-14. And I'm like, it's okay. The fact that UCSD could do that to us in one quarter, what's to say that Hawaii can't do that to them in another quarter, right? That's all I was thinking. And as Hawaii started to chip away, that's what we kind of saw. Hawaii taking that third quarter 11-6. And then that fourth quarter outscoring UCSD 20-4 to bring us that close to the final play of the game. And then it's just Sumaya Sugapong doing what she does, just being such a young player, but a phenomenal one at that, and making the shot that she needed to make. And again, Hawaii not fully executing their plan that they originally had to try to get them more time on the clock to get their final shot off and at least a better look. But before we kind of dissect the game a little more, here is what head coach Laura Beeman. And you'll also hear from a couple of other players in there in Lili Wahine Kapu and Brooklyn Brewers and what they had to say following that loss on Friday.
First off, I want to congratulate San Diego. Heidi is a friend of mine, and I think they had a great game plan. I think their kids came out incredibly loose in the first half. Hit shots like crazy. I have not seen too many teams hit shots like that, but just congratulations to them. Tale of two halves, and that's really what it came down to. It came down to one shot at the end. We couldn't get a stop. They scored, but definitely a tale of two halves.
What was the discussion during that timeout about the defensive strategy in that last possession?
We talked about giving a foul after about 3 seconds, trying to get a tie-up because the possession arrow was our way, and we just couldn't get the foul. Just couldn't get there. So, and then on the switch, we just didn't get our big in front of the ball. She made a tough layup.
What was the message at halftime that kept you guys motivated and confident to go into the fourth?
Just to fight back, give everything we have, leave it all on the court. 20 minutes of basketball, the game wasn't over yet. So, yeah, I'm really proud of the girls for, coming back from a 27-point deficit. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Santa Barbara game was referenced, and I think we also just emphasized the point that we have more time than we think. And I think we started the game with a sense of urgency and like we had limited amount of time, but in the halftime we kind of centered ourselves and took the weight off of our shoulders of the pressure we were just putting ourselves in, just came back out and played our best and gave it our all.
I know it's hard at this time to think back and what could have been, but try to walk us through what your team showed you in that effort of coming back the way that they did and tying the game with very few time left.
That's been this team all year long. They've played, for a big why. Playing for the state of Hawaii is pretty cool. And I think they've showed that all year long. Representing our university and our state is something really special, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. All year long, though, they have represented with such class. They play hard. We've come back from bad games, been able to go on a 14-game win streak. We've lost some pretty intricate players, throughout the course of the season, and they've never hung their head. They've never felt bad for themselves. They've never had a quit mentality. I think that's why at halftime we definitely knew we were still in this ball game, and it was just if we could get our execution going on the offensive side of the ball, we did. Unfortunately, when you lose a game like this, it hurts. This is not where we want to be sitting, but it will not define this team. We will rally. We have postseason play that we're still going to be in, and hopefully we can continue to do special things together and not have this time as a team end.
How did you make that adjustment and tighten up the defense in the second half?
I think that, in the first half, they played incredibly loose. They don't have anything to lose as a 4 seed playing the 1 seed. And so I think that makes the basket look as big as the ocean. I think we started to come back and got that game within 13 and then 8 points. They started to get really tight, and they started missing some of the same shots, layups, open looks that we missed. They just got too big of a lead in that first half for us to come back to. But again, it came down to one shot. So I just think, and I don't think we were tight. I really don't. I just think we struggled for whatever reason with execution. And I think that the way they punched us in the mouth in the first quarter really kind of shocked us. Because I felt like we were prepared. I felt like we were loose. I felt like we're confident. I felt like, everything was, the stars had aligned. Definitely didn't overlook them. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, but the game plan was good. They felt comfortable. So I think that you just saw a team that was incredibly loose in the first half, and then it kind of turned our way in the second half.
And that was UH women's basketball head coach Laura Beeman, along with guard Lili Wahine Kapu and center Brooklyn Brewers, following that loss, a 51-49 loss to UC San Diego in the semifinals of the Big West Conference Tournament. And there's just a lot of things, and we mentioned this even last year, right, Paul? It's like Hawaii on paper, and I still believe it, are the best team, but you still got to play the games. And UC San Diego just was able to do that much more than Hawaii. I kind of said this when we were off air for a little bit, that one of the shocking parts of the stats to me is the fact that Hawaii got 0 second chance points. Like, I don't think that's ever happened in this season. Like, the size that Hawaii had, they're always able to get some type of rebounds and put it back up there, but to get absolutely nothing. And then Gallegos, to San Diego's credit, was able to just eat up 10 defensive rebounds along with to go with the rest of it, 33 defensive rebounds in general for UC San Diego. So, I mean, they were the better team. They also was able to, I do think some things need to be said about the fact that they do get to play that other game that they had against Cal Poly, because Paul and I were watching the Cal Poly game, and Cal Poly is a way lesser team than UC San Diego, but the Mustangs almost able to beat the Tritons simply because you get that extra game, your depth perception, you get used to the court, you get used to the lights, you get used to the stands, all of that stuff. UC San Diego escapes over Cal Poly. They come in warmed up now against Hawaii. Hawaii now needs to take time to kind of get used to everything. I did tweet about that, and a shout out to Dom Drury for correcting me. The Rainbow Wahine or any team, they do get at least one shoot around that morning before they come in. But during the week, they don't get any practices or anything.
So
yeah, so they don't get any practices during the week at
I
all
get it,
whatsoever.
but it's so silly.
The only time that Hawaii, like my mistake, I thought the only time they do actually get in there was literally like their warm-up time. But they do get in for a shoot around beforehand. Now, does that make me feel a little better? No, but I guess one shoot around. I do hope that maybe someday they can resolve that early on in the week, where it's like the higher seeds at least get their some type of shoot around during the week as well, because you can tell that has some effect. Again, Hawaii able to find their bearings and keep it close and fight back. But when you saw San Diego play the way they did to start against Cal Poly, and you kind of see it in turn with Hawaii, there is some things to be said about that. Again, not to make any type of excuses, like you can't get out muscled getting like the rebounds. You got to go inside a little earlier, because it proved like, hey, we're starting to score now when we go down low instead of taking the outside shot. So there are other things that factor in 100%. But this was just one of those games, man. And Sugapong, and you heard Coach Beeman say there that their initial plan defending that last shot was to potentially either foul or get a better stop, and they just didn't execute down that stretch to be able to give them at least 3 seconds left, which is good enough to get a decent shot off at the end of the game. But that just didn't work out, and there was absolutely like no shot that they were going to get a good look to try to come back and at least maybe try to get that tie in the game. So unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. Fortunately, they win the regular season and are still playing more basketball. But yeah, Paul, your initial thoughts on that game?
It was tough, right? I agree with a lot of the stuff that you said. In terms of shooting in an arena, I think people who have played AAU basketball know this, and people who have experience going from a regular gym setting to a bigger arena, it's different, right? And it's every single time you go to a different arena, the background, the backdrop is different. It takes time to adjust to it, and not just shoot around time, but like actual game reps, actual playing, feeling, going through the motions. And that's why I mentioned, or that's why I agree when you mentioned like, UC San Diego, getting that game beforehand, it helps a lot. That being said, that's a different conversation. Is the double bye, should you get a bye in general? Would you rather just play straight on through? And whatever. That's a different conversation. But I would have preferred to see the Rainbow Wahine really attack inside a lot more for a couple of reasons, right? One, because I mentioned the difficulty adjusting when you're shooting. Two, they had the size advantage they do over every single team, it feels like, outside of UCLA. Like, that's it. And I guess maybe South Carolina or something. Whatever.
Yeah.
But, it's still, they have a size advantage over most of the teams that they play against. And with these games, I would have preferred to see them start inside and work their way out. 15 3-point attempts in the first half. And not to say that they forced them, but it felt like they settled too much. And it's not that they were bad shots. It's that I felt they could get better shots. And when you take long-range shots, also turns into longer rebounds, right? It bounces off back iron, and now that starts the transition break for them, and it makes it a little more difficult for your defense to get back. I mean, how many times have we seen the Rainbow Wahine give up 40 points in a half, let alone the first half this season? Once, twice? I'd have to go back and look, but that's an incredible rarity to see them give up that many points. I mean, shoot, they barely gave out that many in a game this year. That being said, they settled a little too much, it felt like, offensively. It helped or it hurt their defense because they couldn't get back, be as solid there. It was a great effort by UC San Diego. I thought they had a great plan. And even so, they came back in the second half, looked like the team that we had talked about all year. They held a team to 10 points in the second half and lost. It sucks. It sucks. But at the end of the day, that's why winning the regular season title is so important. It guarantees you something more. It guarantees you a spot in postseason play, whether that is the Women's Basketball Invitation Tournament or whether that is the NCAA Tournament. It's on to you. And anybody who watches playoff sports of any kind, especially basketball where it's a one-off game, if you have one off game, your entire season can end, should know that sometimes that just happens to really good teams. I mean, guys, less than a half decade ago, we saw a number one team go down to a 16 seed for the first time in the NCAA tournament. So, it happens. It happens. It sucks. You feel horrible for young women who have worked their tails off all year only to fall on what was an incredible shot by Sugapong through two defenders with her offhand on the right side. It was an incredible play. And sometimes you just need to tip your cap and say they got it today. And to their credit, UC San Diego did. They're dancing for the first time in program history at the Division I level, both the men and the women. That's incredible. And Rainbow Wahine still have business to take care of. They have not gotten a postseason win in nearly 25 years. Let's change that. Be the group that changes that.
You said it best, where it's like you just got to tip your hat to UC San Diego. Fortunately, thank you, Tritons, for beating UC Davis, because that just would have been a whole other discussion. I think that's
we lost to the champions.
I think that's the part. No, just in general, watching so much basketball, and especially women's basketball, UC Davis is the thorn in our side, the annoying, and just even stories I've heard when Hawaii plays there, their fans are just they're just not, they just don't have the good vibes.
We're not friendly with them.
UC San Diego is the team that I want to hate, but I don't, because Sumaya Sugapong,
so hard to hate.
Even Parker Montgomery, they were just balling, right? They just play basketball. There is really no attitude. There's swagger, but there's no attitude about them. Vanderveer, the team is just so well coached, and they're such a good team. You don't see any crazy smack talking, no dirty playing. They just go out there
hooping
and ball. It's you want to find reasons not to like them, but they are just such an incredible team with great players, both as people and as basketball players. And if there was a team that wasn't Hawaii, I'm all right, and Sugapong is going to be one to watch for another couple of years, because she's a sophomore. But yeah, it's not like Davis, where they have a couple of people on that team, especially how they were acting last year when they beat Hawaii. It just still rubs me the wrong way, and just their fans have used yelled certain obscenities at our players in the past, and just everything like that. But UC San Diego, they're nothing but a great basketball team, and if it had to be one, I guess thank you for at least kicking Davis's butt and instead.
I like the fact that they've never done it before. It's cool. I like it for their program. I like it for their school. It's very cool. Like you mentioned, a very likable team, a lot of really good players. One point I do want to point out, 3 of their starters played all 40 minutes. Almost 4 of their 5 players played all 40 minutes. They played 7 total players. So incredible show of endurance against a Rainbow Wahine team that continues to sub and come at you. So once again, hats off to UC San Diego. Good luck in the big dance. But we got a dance of our own to talk about, Ku, for the Rainbow Wahine, as they have a Ninth Island Showdown coming up.
Before we get into that, though, I want to actually get into the big dance for women's basketball. And interesting where UC San Diego has to find themselves now. I guess when you are a new Division I program, you are essentially having to play a play-in game for the tournament, which was kind of a little bit of a surprising thing, but at the same time not surprising, again, considering that they are a brand new Division I program in terms of being eligible for the postseason. So we'll talk about that, and then also take a look at some of the brackets, talk about some of the quote-unquote early controversies in terms of seeding when it comes to the NCAA women's basketball bracket. And we are in the madness of March, so we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht and Michael Lescaro, popping in here on this Monday and St. Patty's Day and everything in between. So mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, and also for taking a watch on every single Monday on our YouTube channel as we are streaming live right now. So thank you guys for tuning in. You can chime in on the live chat, or you can text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481 if you want to get in on the conversation. We are talking about women's basketball right now. We were chatting about the UH women's game against UC San Diego and their loss, such a close loss though in the semifinals of the Big West Conference Tournament. Fortunately, Hawaii still punching their ticket and playing more basketball. They have a date with UNLV staying in Las Vegas, so that's a good thing. They don't have to get on an airplane again. They can just stay up there, play UNLV in the opening round of the WBIT this Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Hawaii time, if in case you guys want to mark that on your calendars. But we will have more of an extensive preview throughout the week, and also probably tomorrow's show here, what head coach Laura Beeman had to say after finding out who they play now in the WBIT. But want to just chat real quick about the women's basketball bracket for the NCAAs, and UCLA, with no surprise, being the number one overall seed, but just some controversy, I guess you can say, with the other one seed, South Carolina there, and then Texas and USC getting the lesser or the lowest ranked number one seed in the tournament, which unfortunately, and this is something Paul and I are passionate about, it kind of, you would have wanted it somewhere else, maybe SC getting like where Texas is, but now you set up another date with UConn in the Elite Eight, which is just
early
annoying.
Date. Like too early of a date.
Yeah. yeah, like, hey, if they're in the Final Four, like, that would be fireworks, right? Like, it's fine. But, like, just the fact that that's the way that it's going to end up again, USC losing last year, but beating them in the regular season this year, it's all over the place. There's so much parity. I did, however, just so everybody knows, before I left Vegas, the one point, you guys know I like to put in futures, so I did have to sprinkle a little bit on, Juju Watkins and the USC Trojans to win it all. I think I got to look it up, but my odds plus 525 to win it all, and let's go Trojans when it comes to the women's basketball side of things. But UCLA up there, and when we talk about UC San Diego, that should UC San Diego be able to beat Southern Utah, that is who they have a date with. They would be the 16 seed in that upper left quadrant of the Spokane bracket, and will have a date with the number 1 overall seed in the tournament in UCLA. But I guess, unfortunately for UC San Diego, that's what happens when you are a brand new team in Division I basketball. You have to play a play-in game, because that was kind of the surprising thing for me, because as we know, when Hawaii's won and stuff, the Big West team always kind of gets somewhere in there, maybe at like a 15 seed, and are in the first round no matter what. But UC San Diego has to play a game before they have that date with UCLA.
Yeah, I don't think it's too bad of a thing, though.
Yeah.
Kind of what we were just talking about. You get an opportunity to get your legs under you in the NCAA tournament. Not that Southern U gets you prepared for UCLA, but, it gets a chance to get under you. I believe it also gives you an opportunity at the units share of winning games. I think that would be big for UC San Diego as well as a program in their first season. And, of course, I'm going to have to look this up to confirm, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. Where should they win a game, right? And as you continue on, that's something we've talked about in the past, and something the men's side will look at as well, where stack up as many wins as you possibly can. It's cool for them. They also, since they are the 4 seed in the Big West to begin with, I was going to talk about this hopefully with the Rainbow Wahine, but unfortunately now we're talking about it with the Tritons. The resume isn't exactly the best out of conference, right? Hawaii beat the living snot out of the Big West during the regular season, but they didn't necessarily have that signature win over another elite program, right? Where they play Portland at the start of the year, Portland, who also made the WBIT. They went 29 and I think 4, the Pilots did. Should Hawaii have won that game on the road? Should they have beaten San Diego State, who ended up winning the Mountain West, taking down UNLV, ending the Lady Rebels' reign of terror across the Mountain West over the past 3 years? That would have been big. Clemson, that would have been a big win. Yeah, obviously UCLA would have been a big win. Yeah. But should you have grabbed one of those, that would have been big for Hawaii's resume and bumping up a seed. UC San Diego didn't have anything along those lines of victory like that they could put their name on, and they were a 4 seed entering the Big West tournament to begin with, which is typically, or honestly always, a 1-bid league. So awesome for them, but also a little understandable. Their first time, it literally is their first rodeo.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, 100% understandable. Like, should Hawaii have won, they would not be playing a play-in game for sure. But taking a look at women's March Madness futures, South Carolina is your favorite at plus 260 odds via BetMGM, followed by UConn at plus 290. Again, UConn in that same quadrant as USC. UCLA, your third shortest odds at 5-1, followed by Texas at 6-1. Then you got the Trojans at plus 675 and Notre Dame at plus 750. So those are your teams with kind of your shortest odds. And then you have significant drop off to NC State, LSU at 40-1. So odds makers are saying it's likely going to be one of just those handful of teams, as it usually is in a lot of these March Madness tournaments. But I'm kind of liking the more parity that we are starting to see in women's college basketball, because I think sometimes that was kind of the knock where the men's side, you were kind of anticipating upsets all the time. And in the women's side, it was always just like 1 or 2 teams that were just dominating all the way through. And you're like, all right, like I'm not going to watch until the Final Four.
You knew the number one team in the nation was going to make the Final Four.
Every
You knew
single
UConn
time.
was going to
You're
make the
just
Final
like,
Four,
all
and
right.
probably Notre Dame was going to make the Final
But now,
Four.
this is going to be really fun, and I love to see it because, as you guys know, we are huge basketball fans in the studio. So the fact that there is this much parity and there is so many teams up here that kind of anyone can win it, at least according to the odds, very much looking forward to. But I'm at least cheering for USC because that's what my money's on before quite literally when I was at the airport because I didn't get a chance to like put in a physical bet and get a ticket, which I'm kind of bummed about because I just like having the ticket for a futures bet. But
Auntie.
I needed to put it in. No, Auntie. This was more of me being kind of the frugal and pake that I am. Is like I need the full experience of giving my money to the sportsbook and getting my ticket. Instead of, especially if it's for a futures bet that has the type of odds that I get. I just at least can hold on to my ticket and be like, that way if it loses, I can have the satisfaction of ripping it up and throwing it in the trash can. When it's on your app, it's just kind of like, it just disappears along with your money. That's it. You get no satisfaction in any of that type of betting. No, thank you.
You know what? Fine. All right. I'll hear you out on that. As somebody who hasn't put in the actual physical bet, I don't know that feeling yet.
No,
the only one I have is the one that you got me.
See, you've never put in a physical bet before, Paul?
No, it's only via I'm from New York, so all we do is the whatchamacallit.
I think me and you should take a trip to cover the Wahine on Thursday and let's take turns with Koo.
We'll have to figure that one out, yeah.
Again, Michael just thinks we're all made of money here. I don't know what's going on.
See, if this was the East Coast, I'd have somebody to hop a couch on. I don't have anybody out here. I'm going to have to rely on Michael for that one.
Fortunately, it is a weekday, so it's usually not as expensive, I guess, in Vegas.
We'll get in, we'll get out. We'll fly out the red eye.
Anyways, got to take a break. We'll be back to close out hour number 1 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network and streaming live on our YouTube channel like we do this and every Monday. Thank you for tuning in, you guys. Wrapping up here on hour number 1. Just got a few minutes left, so want to make sure we mention and give like all the flowers to. We were talking about, just some losses earlier. Tough loss for the Rainbow Wahine basketball team, but fortunately they still play more basketball this Thursday. We'll talk about the loss that the men's volleyball team suffered to USC coming up in hour number 2. But unfortunately, we got a big win that happened at the Les Murakami Stadium. Series win after dropping just such a close game on Friday night. Again, welcoming in number 15th ranked and Big West foe UC Santa Barbara this weekend. Hawaii losing on Friday night 2-1, but then just went crazy on Saturday. Like, I could not believe the score. I think I texted you guys. I was like, this baseball game is drunk. Like, what is going on with this game? 15-7. Hawaii comes up with that big win on Saturday, and then it was winner take all in yesterday's game, and Hawaii able to just squeak by UC Santa Barbara. Again, a team nationally ranked up there. Hawaii not able to win any games against the Gauchos last season, but now able to take this series 2-1 after a 1-0 win yesterday afternoon. So, everyone that was in attendance either Saturday or yesterday, they were kind of treated to some pretty fun baseball. And I know it was sold out on Saturday night, but huge shout out to head coach Rich Hill and just the entire Rainbow baseball team, because we've been saying it, that this team was going to be good. They're going to be special. But this was one of their true tests. And then it was unfortunate, right, to see that loss on the road at UC Riverside to open up the Big West Conference season. They dropped that series 2-1 to Riverside. Come back, kind of do what Coach Hill does against the Division II squads, just do pitching by committee, and everyone kind of gets worked in to that game against Chaminade, able to beat the Silver Swords 9-4 in preparation for this really big matchup this past weekend. And hey, coming out with that series win, so over the ranked opponent. And there you go, like a true or good test, and Hawaii able to come out on top.
First time since 2010 that Hawaii has been able to win a series against a ranked opponent. That last time was against Oregon. This one's a little bit sweeter, coming against a conference opponent, and one who clearly does not like the Rainbow Warriors all that much. But this is a competitive rivalry, and it's a team who I wouldn't be surprised if we see again, especially now with the Big West tournament.
Yeah, I think one thing that you can't go without saying in this series is that our pitching staff is on the next level. I know on Friday night they went against a projected first round MLB pitcher, but our guy Itsuki Takemoto was hanging right there with him. Mm-hmm. And on Friday night we were in a position for in the bottom of the ninth we were in a position to either tie or walk it off. On Saturday night, I know the score was like a football score, but our pitchers combined for 12 strikeouts, and then Itsuki Takemoto, also hit his first career home run on Saturday, and Sunday, we have Cooper Walls just throw 7 innings.
So we got our own MLB prospect,
and he's only a freshman. So that's the guy. Like, if Hawaii and the business leaders, if you have some money for NIL, you need to start tossing it to him, because we saw last year the transfer portal hurt our pitching staff. But Isaiah Magdaleno got back-to-back saves. He deserves some credit. Jared Quant with the game-saving grab in right field. He also had the RBI to score David Virgo de Dios from Maui. So Cesar, I know if you're still watching or listening, Maui boy getting the reps at catcher. So that's kind of good to see. But yeah, this team, and again, Rich always credits the fans. So our team, I do want to take into account that our team does play on another level when we're at home. So I know we're great, but we need to make sure we can get that on the road as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Then hopefully they, like I said, able to kind of learn what it takes to win on the road as well, right? They got a date with Irvine on the road, which is another big game for them as well. So that's something. But nonetheless, Hawaii does still stay at home hosting UC Davis this weekend, and then University of Hawai'i Hilo next week, Tuesday, before going back on the road to play CSUN. All right, going to take a break. We'll be back for hour number 2 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Telling them not to stay in the dugout.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht and Michael Lascaro. Happy Aloha Monday. Happy St. Paddy's Day to everyone partaking. Please be responsible. I know there's a kind of a fun time that usually happens there in downtown Honolulu. So if you want to go out for a good time, go and support our friends there at Murphy's Bar and Grill and Black Shamrock. Now that I say that out loud, I might have to go check it out.
Have a beverage for me as well.
It was kind of a mellow time when I was in Las Vegas, so maybe it was just me getting mentally prepared to go out for some St. Paddy's Day. We'll see. Maybe Michael can fill in tomorrow morning too, so that way I can recover. I'm feeling a little bit today, like just the travel. Got home yesterday at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock from my trip. Almost missed the connecting flight. So Michael would have almost had to completely fill in this morning because almost missed the connecting flight with our flight from Vegas to SFO being delayed, and what was a significant amount of layover time in SFO before our connecting flight, or from there to back home to H&L. The window kept shrinking and shrinking. It went from like an hour and 20-minute layover to 5 minutes. So it was just like I had to like hop off, and like luckily like the gate was closed, so I was able to get there and make it on in time. So whew.
It was a sign, Koo. It was like
they
one
were
of
trying
those
to keep you there.
Final destination premonitions for you to stay.
Don't say
that. Oh my God,
what
Michael.
is Michael doing here?
This guy.
With all of the plane issues going on, like, Michael, why are you going to put that in the universe? What is going? And yet he's like trying to be like, oh, you should go back, go back on an airplane on Thursday just to go, like, hey, let me just sprinkle the Final Destination comment here, but still encourage you to go on an airplane. What are we doing here, Michael? Like, seriously. Jeez.
We're having fun.
No.
We are having fun.
We can have fun. We can have fun about everything else except for when it comes to planes falling out of the sky, especially with everything that's going on right now. Anyways, yes, just made it in time flight was smooth, so we're all good.
I wonder if that was like issues, because my little sister was flying back to Michigan State this weekend, and I guess she had, like, her flight kept getting delayed. And then as she was driving to the airport, they were just like, oh, psych, that last delay, it's no longer there. We're taking off in 20 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's weird.
Oh, it was like one of those things where it was like, all of a sudden she had time and then she had no time. So she had to like sprint to her gate and whatever and blah, blah, blah. So I wonder if it was just a weird weekend of travel.
Well, something was weird because our delayed message was they were limiting. Okay, no. So it got delayed twice. One, and this is kind of Michael's final destination comment.
Oh, no.
The first delay was they were trying to limit the amount of traffic coming into SFO. So it got delayed like 20 minutes simply because of that is what we got from the United app. The delay 2 was because there was potentially something wrong with the airplane. So they were like, oh, we got to wait for maintenance and see if they can sign off on it, but we'll keep you updated. So we're just like sitting on the plane for a while, waiting to hear back on, I guess, the United maintenance to see if they could sign off on whatever it was that was going on with the airplane. So someone like me who already is like this fear of flying and everything going on, already worried like, can we maybe not go on the airplane? Like
without all that.
But it gets signed off. We push back, wheels up, wheels down, a little bumpy coming out of Las Vegas, but that's usually how it goes.
Criminal Minds?
And then landing, go straight to like our gate, which is not too far away. At least it's all United and everything. So made it back here, but nonetheless, I'm a little like equilibrium, still waking up a little bit after coming back from Vegas time and all of that. And I mentioned to you, Paul, was like kind of had like what you had the other week. I'm like, oh my gosh, my neck and like shoulder is kind of sore.
Yeah, what the beautiful people see me do every single YouTube show as I say here. I'm like, man, I don't know why my back hurts. And then my wife looks at me and she goes, you sleep like this, right? Every single night. It's just bad. It's just bad.
That might be me too. It's just the way that I sleep.
Well, you were you on a plane. Me on a plane is even worse. I fold in half. It's horrible. I'm like, I can't even describe
it. The neck down and
everything. The neck down. I should get a neck pillow, but I don't have one. But then that's not comfortable for me. So like, I try and fold my body down in literal half. So it's like I'm down in my. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. And then I'm like, oh, why does my back hurt? Why does my shoulder hurt? Oh.
Why do I hate traveling so much? My body's always sore.
Why am I always feeling so sick? Oh gosh.
Oh, that's why.
I don't know. A real mystery, Paul. Real mystery.
Anyways, I digress. Now getting back to the sports. Coming up in a little bit, we'll get to some men's volleyball discussion, but I want to go back to some NCAA Madness of March. We were talking about the women's bracket earlier. Now I want to take a look, the first look at the men's bracket. Just taking a look first, though, obviously at your futures odds and the futures market odds via BetMGM for your national championship winner. You got Duke and Florida with your shortest odds to win it all at plus 350, Auburn at plus 425, and Houston at plus 625, and then a significant drop off to other teams like Alabama at 16-1, at Tennessee at 18-1, Michigan State at 25-1, along with St. John's up there at 20. I mean, I guess up there at 25-1. But it's just a name that obviously pre-Pitino, that's not a name that you kind of see up there, at least on the first page before I have to click show more on the odds market at, again, odds via BetMGM.
People are so happy that is the case now, Koo. The Pitino fever that is going on in the city, it's really cool to see. And St. John's, it's one of those programs that used to be really good, like used to have that type of buzz. I mean, 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, more. And yeah, now it's back. There are a lot of really interesting seeds in this tournament, I thought, Koo. And I thought that as they went through the entire show, it also feels like almost every single 12 should have a favor. Like, it should be the favorite over the 5.
I mean, it is kind of interesting when you look at the 12. Well, before we get into that, just in case nobody's seen it, the
Fair.
1 seeds are Auburn, Duke, Houston, and Florida, as we mentioned. And speaking of St. John's would be in the same quadrant as the 2 seed as Florida. So take that how you must. But yes, looking at the 12-5 matchups, one of the significant ones, at least in terms of the Big West, that is where UC San Diego finds themselves. They are the 12th seed in the brackets or the quadrant with Auburn as the number 1 seed, but will play 5 seed in Michigan in that matchup. But I agree with you. I mean, this UC San Diego team, considering how quality of a team and just overall team basketball that they play, wouldn't count them out right there, as we will. Is that what we're going to pick in our bracket challenge that we're going to have moving forward? But
yeah, I got to set that up. Sorry.
In some of the other quadrants, you have Liberty as the 12th seed against 5 seed Oregon.
That might be tough.
Yeah, that one's going to be a hard one. But McNeese find themselves in there as a 12th seed, taking on 5 seed Clemson. And then Colorado State, a Mountain West rep, as a 12th seed, taking on Memphis. That's one that I'm kind of looking at like that could be a potential upset. The Mountain West, not as riddled with quality teams as they were last year, but they are still a top conference in terms of just their upper 3-4 teams are still really, really good men's basketball teams. By the way, though, what's his face at UNLV getting the boot already as well too. So, oh my gosh, I forget his first name. I keep wanting to say Lon Kruger, but his son Kruger.
Freddie? No, okay. Sorry.
It'd be difficult to coach basketball that way. I don't know.
Probably pop a lot of basketballs.
Freddie Kruger and Final Destination disabled.
What are we going?
What are we doing here?
I just had a conversation last night too. I'm like, I hate horror movies.
Kevin Kruger,
of course. Did you guys see? Well, goodness, the Iona coach is out. The guy who was at FDU a few years ago. He's out after a couple of years with Iona. The carousel is already hot and whatnot. You mentioned UC San Diego, by the way. I know my little sister is the biggest UC San Diego fan for this first round matchup. Once again, I've mentioned it. My little sister goes to Michigan State, so apparently there's a lot of smack talking between the two schools. So
I can't believe that Michigan and Michigan State are in the same bracket. It's just almost. It's almost gonna. If you believe in it being rigged or scripted, they're gonna meet up at some point in that bracket.
It feels that way. Where it's like. So also, I've thought about this. Where
that would be a long shot though for them to meet up, because they would be in the Elite Eight. I feel like
So UC San Diego, I think, is going to be a really popular Cinderella pick, as they should be. They're one of the better teams in the nation, and they do a lot of the little things that I like, especially when it comes to March. They take care of the basketball exceptionally well. They shoot the three-pointer very, very well. They turn other teams over a ton. I'm really interested to see if they can get through this first-round matchup. I don't love the matchup against Michigan. Michigan's size scares me a little bit. That's not really the Tritons game. Though obviously we see them against a team in UC Irvine with a Bent Leuchten who is as good as most big men in the country, I would argue. Like he is a phenomenal basketball player. That is a matchup that is very curious to me, because if UC San Diego does get out of the first round, that does feel like a very Sweet 16-esque squad, the way that they're built, the way that they play. And let's just face it. Listen, they got enough white guys that one of them are probably going to pop and be the hero of March, right? Jack Golke in other years. It's like Doug Eater. Like, why not UC San Diego? One of them, like Tyler McGuy or something along those lines.
I mean, I probably would take UC San Diego over Michigan in this first round, but if we are talking about our serious brackets, it's going to be kind of hard for me to take UC San Diego over Texas A&M, which is who they would play. It would be Texas A&M and Yale in the first round. I would go with Texas A&M, and if I'm choosing between UC San Diego and Texas A&M, I mean, that's going to be a difficult one. But there's always going to be one, right? Like, there's going to be kind of that 12, maybe 13 type of seed that will make it kind of far. You got.
I think that's going to be McNeese, by the way.
Oh, I know. Didn't they?
They were fun last year, but they did not make it as far last year as a lot of people thought. The reason I say McNeese is more just because of the matchup. Memphis, we saw them here in the Maui. They have the capability of being a good team or running off a few straight games. I just don't believe in the ACC this year. As a guy who has watched a decent bit of ACC basketball, Clemson's good, don't get me wrong. And if they were to beat McNeese in the first round, I wouldn't be shocked. But the ACC has been so up and down, inconsistent and whatever. And McNeese, this is year 2 now with Will Wade and the winning that they have done. And I think that type of habits, getting those winning ways set in stone as your foundation, I think it will come out in March. And I think that's the type of foundation you need to become a Cinderella to make those type of runs.
Yeah, and McNeese, I think, would have as much chance as anybody to beat either Purdue or High Point. Obviously, Purdue
HBU made the playoffs.
Yeah, without Zach Edey there, right? Like, it's a different type of Purdue team. They've been really up and down, so that's who they would play. Should they move on, McNeese, that is, over Clemson, moving on to the next round. But it'll be a fun one. And again, looking at the futures, once again, Duke and Florida have your shortest odds to win it all at plus 350 each. Auburn plus 425, Houston plus 625 before your significant drop off to Alabama at 16-1 and Tennessee at 18-1. See, a little bit more parity this year on the women's side. We got a little bit more of a laundry list of those kind of shorter odds to win it all. And to be honest, that's kind of like the side that I'll probably pay attention to the most, mainly because I have quite literally have money riding on USC for the women's side. I couldn't decide. I was like looking at the men's side. I haven't been paying attention to college men's basketball.
You didn't want to bet on Kansas? Sorry.
Yeah, this men's basketball season has just been so miserable, obviously, for me this year. Thanks
Kansas
a lot.
did make the tournament. It's like their 35th straight year making the tournament or something like that.
That was just like hey, we just want to do you a solid.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Kansas versus Arkansas, the most here. Let's give the old basketball fans what they want.
It's just like, let's just move on, friend. Also, just your first 4 real quick. Alabama State versus St. Francis U. Then you have Texas versus Xavier. American versus Mount St. Mary's. And then San Diego State versus our friends in North Carolina, which that's crazy to see UNCC having to play in to the NCAA tournament, but
they made the tournament in the first place. But that's another conversation.
Not a good year. Anyways, got to take a break. We'll be back to chat some UH men's volleyball and hear what head coach Charlie Wade had to say after that loss to USC when we come back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Liscaro with you guys on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, and hawaiisportsradio.com. Thank you for tuning in. You can also, if you guys have anything to say with the conversation, you can feel free to chime in on our live YouTube chat going on right now, or you can text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. All right, want to get into some men's volleyball conversation as the Rainbow Warriors suffering just their second loss of the season after falling to USC 3-1 on Saturday night in the Outrigger Invitational Championship match. Before that, though, Hawaii able to get a nice wins, a sweep over Ball State, a sweep against Penn State, and then they were tested as we knew that they would be, right? Like that was kind of the what we were saying all of last week, that USC would be the true test. Coming in, the Trojans were ranked number 5 in the AVCA National Collegiate Men's Volleyball poll, and now the update to the poll has just come out for this week, and USC hopping up to number 3. So you got Long Beach State, of course, still there at the top, and it's still the only undefeated team, followed by UCLA, and then you have USC at 3. Hawaii moves back a spot to 4. UC Irvine moves back a spot as well to 5, and then BYU there at 6. Rounding up the top 10, you have CSUN, Loyola Chicago, Pepperdine, and McKendree at the top 10. Which I know, Paul, and we're like,
shout out to McKendree, man.
What?
Like, that's really cool. Like, realistically speaking, and I'll be quick with this, that's really cool because Hawaii put the smack down on them at the start of the year, but that's a program that's growing. It's got a good coach, and they're continuing to get better as the year goes on. Good for them. It's cool to watch the growth of men's volleyball across the nation, especially because I root for a team who is really, really good.
Just a little bit, right? But again, Hawaii not able to capitalize, or just not their best volleyball, I guess is the way to put it, and also the way that Charlie Wade put it, which here is what head coach Charlie Wade had to say following that 3-1 loss to USC. Again, set scores 25-21, 25-20, 26-28, and 25-21. So before we get our thoughts on that game, here is what Charlie Wade had to say.
Well, there's no question they played really good, and we really didn't play up to our numbers, right? Kind of where you are. And in a big match like this, you hope somebody's going to kind of elevate their game. Adrian had a nice night offensively, but we needed him to serve better. You know, he was pretty tragic. He served better in the third set, and we win. Christian served really well. We need him to hit better. You know, we need him to block better. I think we needed, Elaine to pass and receive a little better. We needed Tread to set a little better. So we were a little off across the board, and Dylan Klein was amazing. Like that's, you see that in, you see it in athletics, but in volleyball once in a while with a guy like that, it was really impressive. He didn't make an error until the fourth set. Yeah. For an outside hitter, he was, he played unbelievable. That was, they deserve all the credit, And you put that guy on almost any team with a performance like that, you're going to have a pretty good shot to win. And he clearly was the difference in the match tonight. He ended every important rally, and they could set him. He probably scored more out of the back row than he did in the front row. He'd get in the back row, and we'd get him out of system, and we actually started getting the block on him, and he just blasting off it, through it, whatever. So got to tip your hat to them, and that's the way it goes sometimes.
You went with Clay in that third set there. Just curious what you were hoping to see from him.
Well, just trying to change it up a little bit. Louis was hitting minus coming out of it, and his passing kind of broke down a little bit there. He wasn't doing anything amazing. Like you said, they had one guy that was just going off, and we needed to spark a little bit. And Clay came in, and he didn't really change it much. We went back to Louis, and I thought Louis coming back in was a little better, but in the end, it didn't really change much of what was going on. Like I said, we were just off a little. We needed everybody to play a little bit better, and even then, I'm not sure what the Dylan Klein factor was going to be overcome tonight. He had an impressive performance for sure.
Coach, how much weight do you put on this match in terms of each team's respective resume?
all wins are good, all losses are bad. Whether it's the first match of the season, the last match of the season, everyone in between, it's like, I don't, all of the talk of the at-large through the whole year, the only time that's really going to be relevant almost is into the last part of the season, because there's so much volleyball to be played. Like, they play in a top league, we play in a top league. You're good at every night, there's upsets and you're going to play teams the rest of the year that have a chance to win, especially in our league where every team is going to be ranked. So, there's so much volleyball to be played that, like I said, all wins are good, all losses are bad. The more you win, the better chance you have. And at the end, what we've always said, there'll be one match in our league that'll get an at-large. We have to be in it, and we have to win it. And I've said multiple times, I do not believe that the NCAA committee is going to give 3 bids and both at-larges to one league. I just don't think that's how they're wired. I don't think it's in their DNA to do that. Even if it was the right thing or whatever, it would have to be so overwhelmingly one-sided that it, and the reality is it's never going to be like that. So I'd be shocked.
Coach, after the stretch of volleyball that you guys have had, what do you think having this coming week off from games will mean to you guys?
It's great. I reminded Capono of this because he was asking, like, why did we start so early? That first week of January, and it's so we can get a bye week here late in the season. And we've had a couple of them, and I'd rather start earlier and load it up to get especially after a grueling event like this where you play 3 matches in 3 days. To me, this is a time where a break, get them off their legs a little bit, and and we got. I've been making a list of stuff that kind of some stuff offensively we want to kind of work on a little bit, change it up, and I think it's good time for that, and this is something we historically kind of do. Nothing that you're gonna kind of revamp everything, but just kind of a couple little tweaks to go in there to see if we can do it in the practice gym, and if it's something that we can bust out heading into what is a heavy league schedule here over the next month or two.
That was University of Hawai'i men's volleyball head coach Charlie Wade following their loss to USC on Saturday night. And yeah, he kind of said it best. I mean, like, their best player that night and Dylan Klein was just phenomenal. Also, Jack Duker. I mean, there was just Hawaii to their part, like, did what they could do, but also they didn't do themselves any favors, right? I mean, just not playing their best volleyball, quite opposite of what we saw against UC Irvine, where you're just like, hey, wow, this is a Hawaii team that's playing at another level. This match against USC, just not a best volleyball, and that's exactly what Charlie Wade had to say. I mean, Hawaii 23 attack errors to USC's just 11, and that's what it kind of came down to. But some of your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, so one thing I do want to give shout out to USC is that their scouting department was kind of on point, because I remember sitting where Paul used to sit during the Penn State game, and the 2 USC coaches, by the end of the Penn State match on Friday night, they seemed pretty confident. Like, they knew what the game plan was going to be against Hawaii, and it showed against our Penn hitters, whether it be Louis Sakanoko and Christian Tetrisky. I think there's one point in the USC match where Christian would normally try to power it, but he tried to wipe it off the block, and it came back to bite him. So that was a point where, like, hey, I think that's something where coach wants Christian to be better at. Christian tried to be more cerebral in there, but USC was ready for it. And with Louis, I think Friday night, with his superpowers, his insane back set on 2 and his dive.
Was so crazy.
I think and Louis is kind of that guy where he's kind of a fiery guy, and where he didn't have his best night, I think he had 5 kills to 5 errors, so that wasn't the best. But I mean, credit to Louis. In that 4th set, he was trying to show a little gamemanship. I mentioned to Paul, I was like, hey, Louis pointing out a wet spot. I don't know if it was a wet spot. They go to wipe it.
It's not as wet as they made it seem.
Louis, after wiping it, unties his shoelace. Next thing you know, the USC server gets an error on the serve. But yeah, we got to serve better. I think there were points in the first 2 sets where, hey, if we kind of get a good service turn, we don't give the serve right back, this crowd will get in it, and it will just carry them to that set victory. Because that second set was ours, but they kind of just unraveled there at the end. Our medals though was solid, and that I think they had 15 total between Justin Todd and Kurt Neuster. They had 15 total kills on 25 swings with 1 error, and so they were the guys that I think Tread realized that late. I know in that third set I mentioned to Paul, hey, if we need a point, he's setting it to Justin Todd.
Setting Justin Todd when they needed a point.
Our pin hitters. They just got. I think that's also why Clay came in, because he's a veteran and he's not going to get too hot or too cold. But again, if you're going to come in, Clay, you need to produce. And I think he had no kills on 2 swings. And I mean, it's great to come into the program, but we need more out of a veteran like that in these matches, because you are going to be dependent on. And you know, Adrian had a phenomenal night, just the service line, but on a night where Christian and Louis wasn't their best, that's kind of what happens. But USC, give credit to them. They entered the match, I think, leading the nation in assists and per set and kills per set. So you know they're generating their own points. They're not winning because the other teams make mistakes, which is normally how Hawaii wins, because Charlie has this 90% rule on his serves and whatnot. So yeah, just kind of go back to the drawing board. And then Charlie made a point about the bye week. We saw couple weeks ago where he mentioned Adrian, just the workload and school and everything. It is spring break, so this is a chance for them to kind of refresh, maybe take a team bonding trip to Makapu or something like that. And but yeah, it's a long season. Definitely, I don't even think we should be talking about the at-large bids, because the whole point is to win. Get to the final. And I think the UC Irvine series was great because that puts us in position for a bye. And I think if you get to the bye, you just win one game and you're in the NCAA tournament. So
at the end of the day, the goal is just to get into the big dance, and that the easiest way that the Rainbow Warriors know how to do that is just flat out win the Big West, or at least win to get into the Big West championship game. And so until then, I don't think they're going to think about their resume all that much. This was, unfortunately for them, just a sloppy game. Mm-hmm. Like, it just start to finish, they were sloppy. When you allow an excellent team, and that is what USC is, an excellent team, to get, 14 service errors and 23 attack errors. That's 37 just off that. 37 extra points that they did not have to work for themselves all that much. You can't survive that, and we saw that. Michael brought up a good point in set 2 where it looked like Hawaii was kind of in control of that set, and then all of a sudden Jack Duker drops in back-to-back aces. It completely changed the set. Hawaii had to call timeout. Didn't really all that much matter as they went from up by 4 to down by 5 just like that, and similar thing kind of happened in the 4th set, and those type of runs are hard to overcome against really good teams. And even at home, where we've seen the Rainbow Warriors be, otherworldly at times, now we see them fall a little bit short. Christian Tatrisky seemed just a little bit off, his calibration a little bit off from the very start of the night, where
which is interesting because he had the load management day the night before. So you're like,
that was where, pardon me, that was where my confusion came a little bit. But those nights happen, especially, and I know Charlie is never going to allow us to use this excuse, but especially with a young team, these are people who are still getting it together. They are still figuring out the workload alongside this is how my body feels, and this is what I need to do to be consistent, so on and so forth, at this level of volleyball, with my energy at this level, with the crowd energy at whatever time. Like, it's a lot, and at the end of the day, sometimes you just have a bad game. And this was, funny thing is like, you have a career high in kills for Tatrisky, but you also have a career high in errors, or you have a season high in reception errors by Aleu Choi, who is normally a superhuman. And not that he wasn't in this game, but he wasn't as good as he normally is. Tread could have been a little bit better setting the ball. And this is what Charlie had to say after the game himself. He came out and was like, listen, we were just a little bit off, and Dylan Klein was incredible. And sometimes it really is as simple as that. Klein, a really, really solid player, somebody who will keep USC in pretty much every match, it feels like. And There's a reason he was the most outstanding player from this tournament. He deserved it, especially with the performance he had against a top 5 team in the Rainbow Warriors.
Yeah, and that's why you could tell by Charlie's demeanor, and you guys can tell it with the post game that it's just like I'm not worried. Like they know what went wrong for Hawaii, and you just can't do those certain things, right? And like play cleaner volleyball. But clearly Hawaii has the talent to be a top team and to beat USC. It just wasn't their game that day. But again, get a long break. Don't play until next week, Friday and Saturday when they host UC San Diego. Again, going now there's long stretch of the Big West Conference season, and this is where, like Paul was mentioning, this is where the games matter, right? Like, don't even talk about an at-large bid unless it's more about winning the Big West Conference regular season. And then you got that big juggernaut matchup with the number 1 team in the country, Long Beach State, April 11th and 12th. So should Hawaii be able to go undefeated with these next couple of series against UC San Diego and at CSUN before hosting Long Beach State, that's going to be a big-time matchup in the Big West should Long Beach State, as anticipated, continue their undefeated ways and remain number 1 in the polls.
I do want to say, first off, shout out to Jack Duker from USC. He's a Punahou grad, and also Riley Hayne. I think USC got a little bit cocky in that third set. They subbed in Riley Hayne to just be on the floor when they had potentially match point. But one thing, if you roll back the tape to last week's YouTube show on Monday, one thing I did say is I just want to get off the outrigger healthy. And we remember last year, the long match on day 3, we saw Spiros Hakas went down, and that kind of changed our season. So no injuries from the outrigger, and I think that's one blessing that we need to count. I know it's disappointing, but as somebody on Twitter would say, it could be worse.
It could always be worse. That's like anything. That's sports in general. It could always be worse. All right, got to take a break. We'll be right back here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht and Michael Lascaro on this beautiful Aloha Monday. Hope you guys had a great weekend, and thank you for tuning in either on the radio, online, or of course streaming on our YouTube channel like we do this and every single Monday. You guys can chime in on the chat or text us at 808-888-KG1. That's 808-888 5481. And we got Oz from Sunnydale saying, thanks for acknowledging Cindy Lewis earlier. I read her articles basically every day from high school till her retirement. And a lot of what I know about volleyball is thanks to her. Also said, condolences to your friend Tiff and the rest of Cindy's family. Yes, 100%. We opened up the show as it was deservedly so, just talking about Cindy and just all of what she has contributed to the local sports community. And of course, she's women's volleyball and just the trailblazer that she is. And in case you guys didn't catch it, got extremely choked up just talking about her and more specifically just her. Really, of all of the things that she did, probably one of the most amazing things, one of her main jobs was being a mom to Tiff Wells and just seeing how proud they were of each other. And that's where, when I got the news yesterday, I actually heard it first from Michael here in our group chat. And Paul and I were like, what are you talking about? And that's the part that broke me the most because as in the sports space, because we worked for entirely different mediums covering different sports, I didn't really get the opportunity to work alongside Cindy like a lot of other people here did. But I got hired the same time. Actually, I don't know if I've told this story before, but in case you never heard it, like Tiff and I quite literally started the same day at the other sports station here. So we will always be tied as starting in this local sports market on the exact same day. It was at a UH football game. We got hired at the same time as promotions assistants and kind of grew up together, I guess you can say, in this industry. So, and I've always known from way back then how close he was to his mom, how proud he was of her, and how proud she was of him, especially once he became the official voice of Rainbow Wahine and Rainbow Warrior volleyball. So all of that stuff coming full circle, which is why I got extremely emotional to open up the show and why I was crying like half the time on the airplane because I just couldn't. My heart breaks mostly for Tiff and for all of those who were very, very close to Cindy because, again, like just all of her contributions and everything, she was just, I could just see how amazing of a mom that she was and how great of a son that she raised in Tiff Wells, both personally and, of course, professionally, as you know, everybody knows. Like, I mean, the guy's the best. Like, with all due respect to other guys that cover volleyball all over the country, that guy is like the best on play-by-play, you know? Maybe for one of the few occasions you guys will hear me give a compliment to the competitors in the station, but when it comes to Tiff Wells, man, like that guy
has got it.
That guy is just phenomenal when he calls volleyball, and he is just genuinely cares not only about volleyball, but just like his mom, he is a big advocate for women's sports and female student athletes, and kind of calls out anytime, like even growing the sport of volleyball, like Tiff has always had that instilled in him from a very young age. So that's the part that I'm going to get emotional again, but just had to mention. So thank you to Oz for kind of commenting on there and acknowledging that and giving your condolences as well. All right. Also in the first hour, we were talking about the University of Hawai'i women's basketball team. Now going to just say, hey, at least they are in. They do play more basketball. Do have a tall task, though, this Thursday against UNLV. I know UNLV actually tried to like make the case to get their squad into the big dance because they were the Mountain West regular season champs. I think they've won like three tournament championships in a row. So they were trying to, I saw the Mountain West in collaboration with UNLV kind of like post on social media all of the reasons why.
It was funny watching all the conferences do that.
They deserve to be in the big dance. And you know, to be honest, I think they make a good case, but nonetheless, you didn't win the tournament, and that's what you got to do, right? Just like for Hawaii's case. But obviously now these two teams who were the regular season champs of their respective conferences this season, Hawaii in the Big West and UNLV in the Mountain West, now they meet together. And on the positive side for Hawaii, don't have to travel. They can just stay up there. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the plane to turn around for me so that I could stay in Las Vegas. So it might be a good thing because I came back home even money. So if I had stayed there a little longer with nothing to do, they could have ended up losing so much more money. So it's okay. Or I could have gained like 10 more pounds because then I would just go out and eat all the time
my
It plays a
goodness.
seed in Vegas. But it should be a good one.
It should be a lot of fun. These are two teams who are kind of similar in a lot of ways, where UNLV lost one home game throughout the entire regular season. Hawaii, obviously, a phenomenal home team as well. We'll see both of them regular season champions in their conference. Both of them had long win streaks during the regular season, and both of them fell short of the ultimate goal, which was getting back to the NCAA tournament, and that came in the semifinal round, an upset in the semifinal round as the top team. Obviously, UNLV did not have a double bye. They had to play in the quarterfinals against the 8th seed and Boise State, and then it would fall to Wyoming, the 4th seed, in the semifinal round. It's going to be fun. I'm really excited for it. Like you said, we'll get into a more extensive preview later on in the week, but at the end of the day, it's a Ninth Island showdown. This is something that Hawaii fans, UNLV fans, Las Vegas people, everybody can get excited about in general. And when we chatted with Laura Beeman, and I know we'll hear that later this week as well, she gave kudos to the WBIT. This is a tournament that is essentially trying to be the equivalent of what the NIT is for the men's side, I think, which is the next closest, like the next 32 teams, right, outside of the top 68 that didn't make the NCAA tournament. It's still a high-level event, puts you in the top 100 teams in the country, in my opinion, then, and it gives you an opportunity at still postseason victories. I'm excited to see them compete in it for a second straight year.
Yeah, and I think they have a better shot at advancing and potentially going on a magical run. I know we want to see them in the big dance, but if we're just going to be one and done, which unfortunately because of the way it gets seeded, I mean, we see what UC Davis, they have to play a play-in before they play UCLA.
UC San Diego.
UC San Diego, my bad.
No, it's okay. We just, I don't want to give Davis any credit that they don't deserve out here.
But, yeah, I mean, but I think last year with the WBIT, it was kind of a new thing, so I don't think the players and the coaching staff maybe is this just a consolation. I know they did lose a very tough semifinal game in the Big West, which was like a lot had to go wrong, so it was just very like emotional and kind of a downer. But this semifinal loss, it was more of a momentum loss where they didn't unravel. They were on a hot streak and building momentum. So I do like that. I think they, again, like we said on Friday, Paul, is like when they play UNLV this Thursday, they're gonna have to get off to a good start. Any start, and that starts with
now a 22-4 start.
I mean that starts with getting easy buckets. I know in our group chat, we can agree to disagree about the shots, but the matter of the fact is this team is not a 3-point shooting team. I think as a whole they're shooting under 30%. I think they're shooting like about 27% outside of Lili Wahine Kapu. Our guards aren't great 3-point shooters. I think Kelsey and Jovi, they're about 20% or under. Mia's under 25%. So in that first half, there's some shots that I saw Kelsey take. Like, no, what are you doing? I mean, they're open. Yes, they're good looks, but in the playoffs, in the postseason, people know your tendencies, people know your weaknesses, and you don't want to get Ben Simmons or Russell Westbrook out there. So hopefully they can generate some good looks. I'd love the big-to-big passing that they discovered in the second half, whether it be Brooklyn to Imani or Imani to Vittoria down low. Work on that because our calling card is defense. And you don't want to get into shootouts. I know Coach Iran Gana on the men's side says we don't want to get in 3-point battles. For the Wahine, they definitely cannot get into those battles because, yes, they might be good looks, but we don't have the firepower. Our offense this year isn't as great as it was last year. So get easy baskets, get to the free throw line, and just kind of muck up the game because if one thing is for sure is our girls can get down there and battle.
It'll be interesting, though. I got to go back and look at, and again, we'll have a more extensive preview of the UNLV Hawaii matchup coming up a little later this week. But when you look back with the Mountain West side, though, UNLV actually losing to the eventual champ San Diego State in the semifinal. Yeah, when you said Wyoming, I was like, wait, okay,
it was on the other side.
Yeah, San Diego State, 71-59. And for Hawaii's credit, as we know, Hawaii did play San Diego State earlier in the season, just barely losing at San Diego, 54-52. So I got to go take a look at the box score in that game, and then also this UNLV San Diego State game that just happened to kind of see, is there something that Hawaii can take away from that game? So that's something that may help with their game prep in this game, the fact that they were able to play the eventual champ of the Mountain West, but also specifically the team that beat UNLV, and convincingly so, right? Like 71-59 is a pretty good score to beat a team, a quality opponent in UNLV, and what exactly happened in that game. And then San Diego State punching their ticket into the NCAA tournament because they beat Wyoming 70-68. So it's going to be a fun one. But yeah, both teams coming off of those losses after being regular season champs, both teams losing to eventual tournament champs. So it's a tall task, but nonetheless, that's why you play the games.
Every game in the postseason is going to be a tall task. Bad teams don't make postseason tournaments. So I got to imagine UNLV is probably feeling the same way. It's like, God, we're facing a top 5 defense in the nation in the first round. Are we kidding? That's our reward. Hey, you're the 2 seed. Here you go. Here's a top 5 defense in the country coming to you.
All right, we got to take our final break. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Escaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network and streaming live on our YouTube channel this and every Monday. So you guys can either watch us live or obviously go back and watch any part that you may have missed and watch any of the stuff on our YouTube channel. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hey, hello to our friend Alex from Adelaide, also chiming in here on the live chat. Good morning to you as well, Alex. I'm still a little salty about the Wahine basketball over the weekend. Yeah, aren't we all? But as kind of we were saying earlier, it's like UC San Diego is not we don't have the similar irritation, I guess you can say, from a fan perspective, as you would say like a UC Davis, where some of their fans, especially when Hawaii plays at UC Davis, just are a little and just their players have a certain attitude about them sometimes, especially after last week, like with Victoria Baker, like following our girls into basic like the huddle when the game was over, continuing to talk smack. So that kind of stuff, like they just rubbed me the wrong way. Where UC San Diego, they're just a good team, well coached. You can't nothing but love for them, and congratulations again to UC San Diego, first season of full D1 eligibility and able to win both, not just on the women's side, but also on the men's side, with the men beating UC Irvine. And on the flip side, I was like, hey, at least UC Irvine, I go back to it all the time as well. From the time when Eran Ganot won the Big West Conference tournament when his first year, UC Irvine and Russell Turner have only won one Big West Conference tournament. So thank you to UC San Diego for keeping that streak or lack of a streak there for UC Irvine. Is that the Anteaters, as I guess consistently good that they are in men's basketball, well, you know what? Still only got that one championship, in at least in the duration that Eran Ganot has been head coach in the Big West. So on Davis is the women's side, and on the men's side is UC Irvine. So, and thank you, Irvine, for not covering the spread, so I can continue to not like you for keeping it close the entire time. But come on, 6.5. I thought for sure it would have been like a little bit closer, and then San Diego starting to pull away at the end. But nonetheless, yeah, put in a little. It was just a small sprinkle, so it wasn't too bad.
Also probably ruined any chance at it. I know that like the two-bid Big West was always a pipe dream and a long shot, but like you can't lose by double digits. You can't lose by more than 7. You can't lose we needed like a buzzer beater by UC San Diego if UC Irvine still wanted like the at-large bid chance. And realistically speaking, they needed to beat UC San Diego so that the committee would put them in. That's the whole conversation, by the way, about North Carolina and all that as well. I can't believe West Virginia didn't get punched into the tournament instead. But whatever.
Their governor is actually wants to launch an investigation on why West Virginia is not in the tournament, Paul.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like when Florida State got left out of the college football playoffs, and they were like, "This is crazy." And here's the thing: I understand it sucks. It does suck because West Virginia deserves to be in the tournament. But also, I find it so annoying when politicians are like, "Oh, our sports team deserves." Shut up! Shut up! Go focus on something else.
At least their governor is willing to go into an investigation about that kind of stuff. Maybe our governor should investigate on why our stadium isn't built yet.
I mean, we kind of got homeless problems to worry about, but anyways,
that's
a conversation. Don't get me started, as we only have a few minutes left on this. I do, still sticking with the positive note, I do want to give a shout out to our friend Dom Drury, formerly the Dobo here for the UH men's basketball team, and now is like the something fancy title, championships, basketball, something for the Big West, because I don't think you guys could see it on TV, and I should have uploaded the graphic to our social media, but I posted in my Instagram story that they, compared to the first year when we were there, or when I went to, 2 years ago when the Rainbow Wahine won, they actually now have like a full stage that they bring out for the championship and kind of do a really nice presentation of the championship trophy and the MVP, like you see kind of in all of the bigger P5 a championship, broadcast where they do show you the full entirety of the post game and all of that stuff. But I was kind of impressed. I kept looking over. I was like, I was sitting next to Jessie, who is Dom's wife. Like, did they do this last year? Because again, we didn't get to see the championship stuff last year. And I guess last year was the first year that they did it. So, and that was the first year Dom kind of took over the helm for that. So I think that was really cool that they had it felt like a real, true, big time conference championship. Again, a stage they rolled out, and you have the full presentation. You have a banner that kind of dropped down from the top as well. It looked really, really cool. Like real championship vibes. The crowd was amazing. I heard the crowd last year when it was like Long Beach and who was it? Davis last year? I don't know. In the men's game, she was telling me that was like the crowd was really lame. This year, the Irvine and the San Diego crowd for the men's game showed up and showed out. Like the vibes, I posted on my social media as a pure basketball fan who just enjoys watching live basketball. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the vibe and the crowd. And shout out to all of the Hawaii fans, of course, that showed up and showed out for the women's team there. It was good vibes all around, except for the fact that we didn't come out with the win. Unfortunate to not get the win, but at the end of the day, it was like we said, a great event.
Shout out to Dom, and we're excited to watch the Rainbow Wahine continue.
Yeah, job's not done yet, and there's always next year. All right, we got to go, but for Michael Iscaro, Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Bye!
Home of the Los Angeles Clippers.